Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. And I'm sorry to say, get ready to be annoyed because the first story of the day is one of the most annoying, frustrating stories to come out of Hollywood in a long time. And what is it? It's that Hollywood is going to reboot the Terminator franchise. It's just so ridiculous. I don't know what to say. So let's just go with the specifics first, the details. The Ellison siblings, Megan and David, children of Larry Ellison, who's behind Oracle, and they just have grand canyons of money. They just have so much money that his children are using those finances to buy their way into Hollywood quite successfully. And you know, Megan Ellison, I did a focus on her last year because she's financing quite a number of films. For instance, Zero Dark 30 was her. Killing Them Softly was her. Spring Breakers was financed by Megan Ellison, and David Ellison has been in the industry for even longer, doing more blockbuster films. But what happened is that they're going to each put up 33% of the money for this Terminator reboot, and Paramount will put up the last third. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, inexplicably, will continue to star. That was part of the big deal. That was how the wheels were turning. So, I mean, we've been hearing rumblings about bringing back the Terminator, but I'd always assumed that they were going to just do another movie after the last Terminator with Sam Worthington and Christian Bale, which I thought was... The only good part of that movie was when they had the CGI young Arnold Schwarzenegger, and for a few brief moments it was a Terminator movie again, but otherwise it just was kind of like fan fiction. I was really not a fan at all. So I assumed they were just going to continue with the story. But to do a reboot, to me, it's just, I have to say, as a movie fan, and as someone who's covers the business, from both perspectives, it's just kind of appalling. It's just like the most offensive thing to take such a wonderful franchise and reboot it. Why don't they remake like Singing in the Rain or The Godfather? It's just absolutely ludicrous to do this. And you know what? I like the idea of the Terminator story. I can maybe see in some ways rebooting it if you didn't have Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. Or tell another story from that world. I don't know if anybody ever watched the Sarah Connor Chronicles on Fox, that Terminator show. It was a fantastic television show, and it ended on a cliffhanger. The makers of the show rolled the dice and decided to end on a cliffhanger to try and compel the show to be picked up again, and Fox didn't blink, and they just canceled it anyway. And it was so frustrating because it was such a great cliffhanger, and if anybody watched that show, you know my pain. So I guess what I'm trying to say there, though, is that other good Terminator stories can be told. Lena Headey from Game of Thrones was in it, and Summer Glau was a female Terminator, and she was fantastic. She was actually almost as good as Arnold in some ways, and she really did a nice job playing a machine. It was excellent. So I would prefer they just tell a different story in the universe than rebooting it, throwing away everything that James Cameron so classically and beautifully built. It's just so frustrating. And you know, you wonder how much damage they can do. The only silver lining coming out of this story is that it looks like pretty soon the rights will revert back to James Cameron. So they're trying to get 3 movies out, 3 of a trilogy, this standalone trilogy reboot before Cameron gets the rights back. But, you know, if they continue to do this much damage to the franchise, what is it going to be worth to Cameron at that point? And, you know, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, the Escape Plan trailer just came out, and I'm sorry to say, combined with his personal problems, you know, it's hard for me to get past that. I try to just see the actor, but what I thought what he did to his family and Maria Shriver was just so egregious that it's kind of hard for me to get over. So I just think this is just a mess. I think it's a giant turd right away. And the Ellisons are throwing their money down the toilet. I'm not happy about it at all. So that's the first story. Second story of the day, a couple of you wrote to me about this. You were very excited. It's that Julianne Moore looks like she's going to be playing President Coin in the Mockingjay, the final Hunger Games duo films. They've broken it into 2 films, Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, a la Twilight. And I think that's interesting. I think it's obviously another high-profile, respected actor joining the cast after Philip Seymour Hoffman and Donald Sutherland. I think they can only help the film. It's a very interesting role for Julianne Moore after she'll be menacing Chloe Moretz in the Carrie remake this Halloween. But, you know, I don't know. I'll have to see the second Hunger Games before I can get more excited about this. I was really disappointed with the first Hunger Games. I mean, I know it made a ton of money, but I felt it was, you know, I say this a lot of times, it was very CW. I didn't think it was very filmic. When I say something CW, some of people have asked me about this. They're like, what is this CW critique? Don't you yourself enjoy CW shows? And I do enjoy a number of CW shows. As I mentioned just the other day, Reaper was on the CW, and it was a fantastic show. But what I mean is, especially with these kind of like these movies. Like the CW makes like a kind of like Reaper was very much a television show, and it felt like a television show. But when when the CW goes and makes shows like Arrow, I'm sorry to say, or Smallville, or Birds of Prey, or they kind of like have this like semi-quasi movie feel to them. But what's holding it back is the budget and the vision of the talent involved. And that's what happens when you have a movie. That's what I'm talking about. It's just not thinking big enough. It's like good enough. It's almost like the movie version of a young teen novel, young adult novel, which I guess is what these Hunger Games are. But I just felt it could have been so much more, and it could have been a lot better done. So that's my concern about Hunger Games in general. So until I feel that's put aside and solved, I have trouble getting excited for Julianne Moore joining the team. But a lot of you guys are excited, so I think that's always a plus and a good move then on Lionsgate's part. The third story of the day is really such a weird one. Vin Diesel, as a number of you also pointed out, put on his Facebook page, I think that's where it was, or one of his social media sites, that, oh hey, Marvel wants to have a meeting with me. I wonder what it's about. And it was great. It was so clever of him. It got so many headlines. I think he could only help his meeting. So it was a very clever thing to do before he went in. I can only imagine that Marvel wants to meet with him because of how well the Fast and Furious movies do. I would tell them to be careful, though, because Vin Diesel has been unable to find success outside of that franchise. Not for lack of trying, though. I think Riddick has a cult fan base, but I wouldn't make Vin Diesel the star of a Marvel movie. I would give him like a supporting role. I have no idea who he could play. Maybe now that just springs to my mind as I just said that, maybe Luke Cage, but he'd actually, I don't know. He's not, he has the right race for Luke Cage, I guess, but I feel that he's so different than the way the character is depicted. But I think he would be a good Luke Cage in terms of personality and power set, and he has the build and he has the look. So that could be interesting. Would you go see a Marvel Adventures movie with Vin Diesel as Luke Cage? I can't think of any other actors maybe that are high profile. Characters that are high profile enough for Vin Diesel. He's just such a potent personality. It'll be interesting. Marvel's walking this fine line of bringing in not quite formed movie stars like Chris Pratt and Armie Hammer that they can kind of shape. Chris Hemsworth. Who is Chris Hemsworth today but Thor? He is Thor. I think Chris Evans to some degree. But, when you bring in a Vin Diesel, that's like a Robert Downey Jr. He comes with baggage that you have to then appropriately match with a character to meld them together. Very interesting, though. Very exciting. I love it. So for today's question, a number of you were talking about yesterday about, give TV actors a chance. Not yesterday, the day before, because I'd said Cinderella, Disney Cinderella movie seemed a little bit too much like a television film. And you were like, give TV actors a chance. It's not very nice for you to discredit them and say that once they're in television, they're stuck there. And also a number of you were like, well, forget Armie Hammer. I want Nathan Fillion to come in there and play Ant-Man. He'd be a great Ant-Man. And I would have, it's a tough business. And I would say, I would also ask you to pay a little more close attention to what I said with that Disney Cinderella. I don't mind them bringing up a few TV actors, but when you have all television actors, that's when it starts to seem like a TV movie. And I don't think you're doing favors for anybody involved with the cast when you do that. So I think that's a mistake. I wouldn't do that. And I think it is hard to move from television to movies. Look at someone like John Hamm. He's having a hard time. I suggested Bryan Cranston to play Lex Luthor, but yet it was announced that Mark Strong is the front runner. How many chances are they going to give Mark Strong? Even though he has his fan base, and I like Mark Strong, he has yet to click with mainstream audiences in any role. I don't think there's been any movie yet where everyone was like, wow, who played that? Who was that? Oh, it was Mark Strong? I'm a big fan now. I don't think that's happened. I think only people who are really keyed into film have noticed him. So, and also he just was associated with the Green Lantern. I think DC would want to stay as far away from him as possible. It actually annoys me a little bit that they would consider him for the role instead of someone like Bryan Cranston. But there you go, the TV stigma at work. Also, Michael Rosenbaum has been tweeting and saying, come on guys, I'm the only choice for Lex Luthor. Especially because he has a lot of support online from his fan base. But again, I think there's just no way that they're going to go with Michael Rosenbaum. It's just they need to not only keep this new Man of Steel separate from all the other incarnations, but again, it's just too television. Television actors, it's very hard. You have to prove yourself. You have to find the right vehicle. And often when you go make the jump from television to movies, you have to leave television behind. George Clooney managed to do it. He had to take a lot of hits to get it done. That's one of the reasons he signed on to be Batman. He didn't want to do it. He admits that he really torpedoed the franchise and set it back a lot, but he needed to take whatever film gig he could get. And it was hard for him, and that's an example there. So I would say TV actors, if they really want to move up, they need to find those really great indie roles that maybe can get them the kind of cachet they need. I think jumping from television to blockbusters or television to fantasy is tough. And also, as for Nathan Fillion, I feel really bad about this. I love Nathan Fillion. I've met him at Comic-Con. He's really a nice guy. I think he really cares about his fans. He's very talented, but at this point, I think it's extremely unlikely that he would ever move to movies. Why? I think it's just been too long. I think Firefly failed miserably at the box office, that chance for him to jump. I think the movie was called Serenity, actually, based on the Firefly show. He just was not accepted in that movie by movie-going audiences. And I think that, the best shot he has is Joss Whedon, because just like he's in Much Ado About Nothing, maybe putting him in a Marvel movie in a much smaller capacity. But I think I think Nathan Fillion has such an ingrained television persona on network television now at this point, with not just Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, but then he went on to do Castle, which is a very popular show. But I mean, it's going to be very hard for him at this time in his life in his career to get past that. I think he is just so ingrained in people's minds as a network television actor, and not one who wins a lot of awards. I mean, Castle, great show, everyone loves it. I mean, I don't watch it personally, but I've seen the lines, and a lot of those lines partially are for Nathan Fillion, but it has its audience. But it's not one of those, it's not like Breaking Bad or Mad Men or even Boardwalk Empire or something like that. It just doesn't have that cachet. So actors have to make these choices. They have to be smart about it. Careers in Hollywood are a chess game, and sometimes you get blocked into a corner, or you lose too many pieces and you just can't go to that side of the board. It's just the way it works. So I would tell you to always remember that, and think about how even Tim Allen had some success, but even he really couldn't escape the gravitational pull of television and had to go back there because audiences just saw him as a television actor. So it's rough, and some people can do it, some people can't pull it off. It's just, the way the cookie crumbles. So that's today's morning movie news. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back on Monday. Write down below what topics you'd like to see covered and any questions you'd like to see answered. Thanks for watching. Bye.